Good morning, everyone. Thank you so much, band, for an amazing time of worship. My name is Sylvia Njeri Gedenji, and I will be your gathering guide. No, today I get to be taking us through um, our cartography for the day. We'll be looking at Psalm 23. So if this is your first time, I serve with Ken as part of the community, and today I get to tell my husband to wave. Eric Gedenji Kiama. Yes. So today I put him on the spot. Secondly, I'd like to celebrate the newest couple in town, Mr. and Mrs. Stacy and Sam Munene. Yes. Welcome. It's so amazing to have you today, and thank you so much for showing up today. So last week, we got to start on a famous psalm, Psalm 23, and we looked from verse 1 to verse 4, where we get to see the image of an intimate relationship between a sheep and a shepherd, as David refers to the shepherd. So we see how he leads him in places of refreshing where he can eat, where he can rest. And most times when we look at shepherds, we look at what media has made them to look like. They look glorified. They are always dressed in white. They are almost blindingly white. But back in the culture, that actual culture, shepherds were they are actually a low standard of people. It was given to the least of the least. For example, if it's in your family, the last born son was the one who would take care of the sheep. It was something regarded for just lowly people. They also tended to be quite dangerous. So because of how they were, sometimes you'd find that they'd be accused of stealing, accused of lying, accused of aggressively protecting water points so that their sheep could drink that water. But then, still in that, we see how they do life with the sheep. They actually smell like the sheep. They live with the sheep. They say there was a pen of the sheep, so the shepherd will sleep at the gate. And I think maybe that's why Jesus refers to himself as the gate, because he's the one who would protect the sheep. He would, whenever any was sick, the shepherd was quick to notice. They would play with him, they would talk to him. It was such an intimate relationship. And that is what we are being invited to look at. And David says Yahweh is like that. He finds the loveliest pastures for us to refresh at. So interestingly, when he talks of sheep lying down, it takes quite a lot for a sheep to lie down. So they need to ensure they are not fighting against each other. They need to ensure they are also not being affected by flies near the face. And they also need to have been fed. So the shepherd would ensure that there is no conflict within the herd. They also have poured oil on their heads. The oil was for keeping the flies away. And also that they are fed so that when they lie down when they are full. And they are also safe and secure and confident as the shepherd is at the gate. So I was looking at this, I like animation, so my friend will put up a particular video. Thank you.
My sheep. Please keep them safe. Even if I walk through the valley. Even if I'm lost in the shadows, I will not fear, for I know you are with me. The Lord is my shepherd. I have everything I need. I lack nothing at all. He leads me beside quiet waters, to a place I can lie down and find rest for my soul. He restores and revives my life, never leaves my side. Even if I walk through the valley, even if I'm lost in the shadows, Like an eagle, you renew my strength for all of my days. You are good, and your heart is for me and will guide me in the path of righteousness for the honor of your name. Even if I walk through the valley, even if I'm lost in the shadows, I will not fear, for I know you are with me. Surely goodness and mercy will follow. Oh, you follow me wherever I go. I will not fear, for the Lord is my shepherd. That's right. The Lord is my shepherd.
Hello. Yes, the Lord is my shepherd. And today we get to step into verse 5 and verse 6. So, short story, there was many years ago when I was going for my rorasho at my mom's house. So I went back home, and almost a week, she was like, you need to come home so that we can prepare. So we washed the walls, we washed the curtains, we washed the windows, we washed the clothes, we removed the cobwebs, we scrubbed the floors, we scrubbed the toilets. We went to our neighbors. If, I don't know, some of our mothers are part of either CWA, PCA Women Guild, ACK, one of those, or the community chama. We went and looked for seats, we looked for tables, we looked for cloths. We went to we cleaned the house and organized for a whole week because there were guests who were coming. We went and borrowed large sufurias, we got caterers, we went for shopping, like the whole thing. For a whole week, we were working non-stop for guests to come. And even in that morning, you wake up early to ensure the kitchen is going, the facility, the home is ready, just because we knew that guests were coming. And once they came after a few minutes of changing, my mom was so excited. She would walk around, say hi to the new people, say hi to her friends, go back to the kitchen, ensure it's okay, go to the washrooms, ensure the facility is doing okay, because the guests were there. And for her joy was that the guests were laughing, were eating, were enjoying, even going for seconds, they were enjoying the food. Anyone who had a request, she was so quick to attend to them. And for her, that was her joy, that her guests were satisfied, they were enjoying the time there. And could it be that is the invitation that Jesus gives us? In verse 5, it says that he prepares a table before me in the presence of my enemies. He has anointed my head with oil. So Jesus here, referred to as a shepherd or God, or he has gone out of his way. He knows his sheep. He knows each and every one of us. And he goes and remembers that, yeah, you like chocolate, you like nyama choma, you like pork, you like ugali. He ensures that he gets that ready for you. He knows that you prefer a fresh juice to packet juice, whatever, the different things that you prefer. And he goes and he makes it. And then he also knows that it's abundant. So even as we eat, we are eating a lot of it, it's available. And he has thought about us and says, yes, it's an honor to have you visit me. It's an honor to have you come and as a guest. And interestingly, actually, as a guest in that culture, in the Jewish culture, it was quite an honor to be a host, to have people come to your house. So one of the other things they would do is pour oil on your head. As it says, you have anointed my head with oil. So this oil was helpful in that, having walked for a long distance, that oil would actually refresh you. And in current days, it's used in, I think, therapy, to be able to just relax you from the long walk that was there. And it was specifically for honored guests. So when David is saying this, he's saying with that in mind, that God has has had foresight about him and has invited him as an honored guest, acknowledges his presence, and also arrays a banquet before him. So even thinking when you're invited to go and visit someone, you actually are excited about the event, what you'll eat, how you'll catch up with the people. And as a host's joy is for the guests to eat, the guests to enjoy with one another. Could it be that is the invitation for us to enjoy what he has set before us? The food, the relationship, the friendship, the company, all of it because he has set it for us and he knows each and every one of us. So he has put specifics in his banquet because of the specifics that you like. And also anything that you need is also there. But then it's interesting, the rest of that verse says, in the presence of my enemies, which was quite interesting. And I wondered, okay, if I'm invited for a feast or a banquet or an event, I really don't expect my enemies there, people who are quote unquote against me. I don't expect them there. But in this specific part, he still arrays, they are there, they are present. So it's interesting that the relationship between the sheep and the shepherd does not remove the enemies. They come there and they are part of the banquet. But could it be that this relationship eliminates the fear? Because David, in the previous verse, verse 4, talks about how he had walked through the valley of the shadow of death. And there maybe he had met these enemies. And enemies may not necessarily be the people. I like what Andy Stanley says. He calls them enemies of the heart. Such things like jealousy, greed, corruption, envy, malice, hatred, anger. So these enemies are still there. And it could also be the difficulties and the tensions of life, either in family, in finances, in school, in our country, in the world. But even in those situations, that the shepherd still offers us a banquet to eat. And could it be that's our invitation also? Or are we at the table caught up with the situation of the economy in our country? Are we caught up, focused in the midst of this amazing banquet? We are caught up in the issues that are happening in our families, our health, our education, our country, our world. Are we so glued on them that the banquet that he's offering us gets at the back? It disappears. Because if you thought about it, if you were meeting with someone and you had so much in your mind, you rarely even hear what they said. You just see their mouths moving. You can see that they are talking to you, but you really can't hear them. And maybe that's how we are showing up to this banquet. Or are we caught up with wanting to pray them away? You're praying all of them away. In the midst of that, we miss the banquet that it is before us. Or are we ignoring them in denial that they are not there, they don't exist, I am okay, this is heaven on earth, I am going to eat, ignoring all of them? What are some of these enemies that are before us? As we enjoy the relationship with the shepherd, there's still tension in our families. There's still tension in our finances. There's still things that we are waiting and hoping that he will answer. There are still even reservations we have about him because maybe he hasn't showed up the way that you would like. But he still offers this. And could it be what he's offering is to refresh us? Because when you've been hungry for a while, you're quite irritable, short-tempered, everything is not working. But when you're fed, you're actually able to go through the rest of the day. You're able to tackle a particular decision. You're able to tackle different things. So could it be that is what he's offering us? He eliminates the fear of these enemies and what they are doing in our lives, but he also refreshes us with his word, with his presence, with all that he is, so that we are able to make decisions in a way that helps us move forward. And even as he anoints our heads with oil, sometimes there's some tensions that take long. They really take long in our lives, and there's no short answer or short end to them. Could it be that he's also offering to anoint us with oil? So oil at times is also referred to as joy, the joy of the Lord. Maybe then that's something to give us different moments that we can be grateful for and be joyful in as we move forward. It can also be the presence of the Holy Spirit, who is our helper, who will guide us as we make these tough decisions, as we continue to walk through life. So yeah, what are the enemies, the tensions? What is the invitation, the place that God is asking of you to enjoy the banquet before him in the midst of the tensions that we have? When a soldier is in the presence of his enemies, he eats as if he's snatching a hasty meal, and he hastens to go and fight. But observe, Thou preparest a table, just as a servant does when he unfolds the cloth and displays the feast on an ordinary peaceful occasion. Nothing is hurried, no confusion, no disturbance. The enemy is at the door, and yet God prepares a table. And a Christian sits down. We sit down and eat as if we are in perfect peace. Later on in Psalm 78, it was referring to when the Israelites were in the desert. 78 verse 19 to 20. They spoke against God and asked, "Can really God prepare a table in the wilderness? Behold, he struck a rock so that the waters gushed out, and the streams were overflowing. Can he give bread also? Will he provide meat for his people?" And when we look back, we see that he actually did. So in the midst of the tensions of our lives, the shepherd, who is our shepherd, is arraying a banquet before us. In the presence of the tensions, the frustrations, the shortcomings, the enemies of our heart. So will we eat and be refreshed so that we can keep going? And the next verse, verse 7, talks about, "Certainly goodness and faithfulness will follow me all the days of my life, and my dwelling will be in the house of the Lord." As he starts with certainly, it shows surety and confidence that this goodness and faithfulness, which is the shepherd's, will follow him all the days of his life. In the good, in the middle, in the ugly, his goodness and faithfulness will follow us. And it's interesting that this dynamic life, when we look through that psalm, he seems to have gone through a lot. He was refreshed he ate, he drank, his soul was refreshed, but then we also see him in the middle of a valley. So in the ups and downs, God is still with him. And finally, this dynamic life, just as ours is, full of ups and downs and middles and mares, somewhere where we don't know what is happening, finally is concluded with settling down. When he actually talks of the feast, he's not eating standing. He's settled, he's seated, and he's eating. And as he talks of dwelling in the house of the Lord, someone would wonder, okay, does he go every day to the temple? I don't think he did. And neither do we every day show up to church, show up to different places. But could it be he was talking of being in God's presence continually all the days of his life? Being in continual relationship with the shepherd here on earth as we walk with him, and beyond as we go after that, because he later said that I go before you to prepare a place for you. While I am here, I will be a child here on earth. I will be a child at home with God. The whole world is God's house for me. And when I ascend to the first floor, I shall not change my company, nor change the house. I shall go up to just dwell in the first story house of my Lord, of my shepherd forever. It's an invitation of being with a shepherd all seasons of our lives. And interestingly, he's always the first one who reaches out. As compared to all other religions, he's the shepherd who reaches out. A host is the one who invites us for an event. They give us an invitation, they call us, they're the first people to start. And that's what he does. He always extends the first invitation. He is God, our shepherd. So my question, where have we been dwelling? Where have we been staying? Spending most of our times? It's true the enemies of the heart shout quite louder. And they cause us to focus on them, be glued on them. Or are we in denial of them? They don't exist. Or are we trying to escape them? And yet, he has prepared a banquet before us. To feast, to eat, to be refreshed, to be strengthened. and also to be in relationship with him. Because as we look at it, this is David, the sheep, quote unquote, referring to a shepherd, and there's a relationship there. Could it be that's also the invitation for relationship with him? He's always the first one to extend. We begin with a shepherd walking in green pastures, being stilled in waters and in righteous paths, through dark valleys, in the presence of our enemies, the enemies of the heart. And now we have arrived at last at our destination, the Father's house. Will he now leave us having brought his sheep to the eternal fold? No. Wonderful, blessed and sweet fellowship will go on from here to eternity. We have been with him and we will be with him here on earth. What could be better than that? Jesus said, I go to prepare a place for you. And if I go, there I am, there you will be also. He is our shepherd, here with us, preparing us for that place. And he's preparing that place for us. Only God can be in two places at once. He said, I will never leave you nor forsake you. Our fellowship is unbroken and it will be unbroken. What a wonderful shepherd. So in the next few minutes, which of these invitations is coming to your heart? Is there a feast in the midst of your enemies that you're being invited to? Is there a place that you're being asked to be refreshed and rejuvenated by him in the midst of these enemies? Or is it an invitation of relationship or even renewed relationship with him? You can think about that as Mary plays. Our shepherd, we hear you in the invitations that you have given us. We are not sure how we will respond or how it is possible, but we accept those invitations to